Was the Sphinx built by Neanderthals, perhaps 100,000 years ago, and carved into their possible god Bez? And proof of the Sea People's circa 1200s BC migration was international. Hi everyone, quite a few new discoveries and possibilities in this video. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to look at the 100,000-year-old history of the Sphinx because it can date to the Paleolithic. Now, it seems that the god Bez is maybe one key to following around the world migrations of the first millennium BC and earlier. In addition, it strikes me as a remarkably old god of the Neanderthals. He may have become the devil or literally evil, bad god in later times as he was worldwide and looks kind of nasty. So this is an artifact we saw in the Rijksmuseum in Leiden, Holland. I'm not sure if it's a sphinx with a lion head or a Bez head, but they are really quite similar, and Bez is thought to have evolved out of a lion's head. I also remarked in another video about this museum that here we seem to have idols of Bez that look very strongly like the Pacific tiki gods. This means that Bez was a kind of god of a seafaring people. We suggest the Sea Peoples, and taken out of Europe and then to Egypt and then worldwide. We suggest this evolved during the Sea People's migration as he is very popular in Egypt after that migration. I think the first millennium BC is a great time to pinpoint as the migration of this god to the Pacific Ocean, perhaps during the dark ages of the 1200s BC and thereafter. Some catastrophe which triggered this, and the migration was international. Now, let's look at some examples of Bez in order to see what we're talking about here. Here we see a green Bez from the Louvre, which looks very strongly like a New Zealand tiki idol and sold as a souvenir over there. Of course, the Sphinx itself was considered a lion in the New Kingdom and later times, though they themselves did not fully know what it once was. I suppose the Bez effigies are largely New Kingdom. They figure in the later period and were once thought of as Nubian in origin, but now it is known that Bez in fact dates to the Old Kingdom. Since he is a lion, partly the Sphinx is Amon, the sun god, the golden god, and is the rising or setting sun. The Sphinx might have been recarved into its present form by Akhenaten, who wanted to get rid of the horned older god. Perhaps that was part of his monotheism craze. In particular, chop off those horns, but who knows? Now, since he was a horned god, Bez is similar also to Khufu's god Khnum and also Hathor, very old gods, wide-faced. These are possibly an earlier form of Yahweh. Yahweh's selfish, devilish, and jokerish characteristics are immediately apparent in the Old Testament. So was the Sphinx once horned. If he was very old, he may very well have been horned. I think it's a great theory. Here we see a statue of Bez which looks like Buddha. I've previously raised the possibility that Buddha has the same name as Egyptian Old Kingdom #1 deity Ptah, a god of resurrection who was later replaced by Osiris as the primary resurrection deity. Here we see Bez with a feathered headdress like a Libyan or Sea People's warrior, and also like a Native American tribal chief, raising the possibility of travel to the Americas in the first millennium BC, about the time this was made. In fact, it's the same headdress used by the Sea Peoples. Quite a connection to water, isn't it? Did the Sea Peoples travel the entire Earth, and was Bez their god? It gets deeper, way and way older. Because you see, since Bez has a very peculiar skull, huge nose, brow ridges, and a flat head and a headdress, was this a god worshipped by the Neanders, which passed to modern humans? It is thought the Neanders wore feathers for decoration and ritual purposes. Does this god also depict a pre-human? The body looks sturdy, short, and stumpy, like a midget, but also exceedingly Neanderthal. When we look at the Sphinx, it is clear we have a very wide head, or at least a very wide face, which might have the semblance of Bez. Thus, was it recarved from Bez? Of course, we do not know the answer to what the Sphinx once was. There is evidence going in different directions. If it was Bez is associated with protection, but also possibly resurrection. Over millennia, gods tend to intermingle and have somewhat overlapping roles as their original function is forgotten, and as one regional variety usurps another in importance. So there are different versions. There is a female variant of Beset who is his consort. It's called Beset, and it's clearly a more modern representation of the great mother goddess of the Paleolithic. Here we see Bez as a Roman soldier, and I think he looks like the Tiwanaku supposed sun god as well. I think that's Bez as well. Bez is always holding things in two arms, kind of like Hercules holding the two snakes, and this one dates from Roman times. Here we see Bez done up like an Indian statue. He has 4 arms, perhaps representing both male and female in one. He is done up like Priapus, and in addition, instead of placing the feathers on his head, he has wings and horns, and the horns look like branches, bit of the Green Man. So he's basically a mix of the flying Loki or Lucifer with fertility and moon god female, i.e. the horns. And if you mix all the gods into one like this, well, isn't that a form of monotheism? Heck, could this even be an early statue of Yahweh or a regional attempt to make one? This statue is absolutely amazing. Bird legs, an Ouroboros biting its tail lying at his feet, showing he represents the world, with a snake wrapped around him, basically Viking ideas also. And on top, lots of cobras, very much like the Nagas of the Indian statues. The manifestation of all the natural forces in one picture. What weird unknown cult was this? This is the old way to describe gods, more like a totem pole housing a collection of gods, rather than one in human form. Bez also had a role as household protector, but if he was a lion, the Sphinx may have been seen as a protector also of the Giza complex. And I think Bez became the devil. Look, for instance, at this image from Southwark Cathedral, London. It's Satan, but it's also Bez. Bez, Bees, Beelzebub, Lord of Flies, Jackpot, and QED. Thanks for watching and have a sensational day.